Hello, BookTube. I want to start off this live stream, this Ninja Steve stream, which will also be a video on my channel, uh, with politics. And I know that bothers some of you, so I wanted to announce it up front. I have no actual venue at the moment for political opinionizing. I don't write op-eds under my own name or anybody else's name. I don't have a political second channel. I don't do anything like that. So I don't have a way. There's no written venue either. My revived book blog, Steve Reads, is almost always for bookish type stuff or book related stuff, awards or movie adaptations or something like that. So I don't have a venue other than this. So I want to start off with politics just to make note of the historical moment that I am in, the historical moment that American politics is in. Because just in the last few days, the Trump Party nominee for president, which is now and always will be Donald Trump, even after he's dead of natural causes in 2047 in the residence of the White House. Even after that, he will still be their one and only candidate of choice. And in the last few days, he has said that he will not condemn bomb threats, with the clear implication being, I want to know whose side the guy is on who made the bomb threat. I want to know whose side they're on before I condemn them. He has said that Haitian immigrants, illegals, are eating pets in Springfield, Ohio, and that when he is returned to power, he will deport them all to Venezuela, not to Haiti for some reason. He's also said, this is just in the last few days, he has also said that when he returns to power, federal disaster relief will be directly proportional to how personally loyal the state's governor is to him. And that if he doesn't like the state's governor, the government will not give federal protection against wildfires or hurricane strikes or an earthquake or whatnot. Sorry, you're out of luck. Unless your governor kisses the ring, you don't get any federal disaster relief, even though it's the states that don't vote for this Trump party candidate and who he hates that make a slush fund of that federal disaster relief money. The states that do fervently vote for him are constantly needing money from the government, from the slush fund. They're never putting money into it. It's the federal government, it's the president that allocates that money. And he has said, just in the last few days, that if he doesn't like the governor of the state that gets hit by a disaster, they don't get any. And his running mate, his Trump party running mate for vice president, for Lieutenant Trump, went on the Sunday news shows today and admitted that the story about Haitian illegals eating pets in Springfield, Ohio was made up. That he made it up, that it's not real, and that he knows it's not real. The bubble-headed bleach blonde that was talking to him when he made that admission did virtually nothing with it. She lightly muttered it in response in an echo as though she were physically afraid of him. But she didn't pounce. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, a journalist in America would have pounced. She didn't pounce. What would be the obvious thing that a journalist should do when a vice presidential candidate for a major religious organization in this country says that he made up a story on the campaign trail? What's the first and only thing that a real journalist should do in that moment? So you lied about that story to the American public. Are you lying about anything else? If you lied about that, how do we know you're not lying about something else? And every single response that he made after that should have, the bubble-headed bleach blonde should have said, okay, that's interesting for you to say, but is that a lie? Are you going to admit in a couple of weeks that that's a lie? How much are you lying? If you were lying then, are you lying now? So you're lying, and so is your running mate. So this is all a lie. And is this the only lie that you've told? Well, if you say that it is, how do we know that that's not a lie? In other words, after he admitted that he told a lie that put these people in danger, physical danger, and caused bomb threats that his running mate will not condemn, the word lie should have occurred in the remainder of that interview roughly 2,000 times. And it didn't. And I have searched my memory for a time in American presidential politics, especially a presidential campaign, a presidential election year, when a campaign could admit that it was lying and not have it affect anything at all, not lose a single supporter. I cannot think of a time when that was true. And the reason why is because this isn't a political organization. This is a religious organization. And the Trump party surrogates can say anything they want. It does not matter. They can say anything they want. And the people who are in their religious movement will realign their organization of reality to validate what they say. I've said this for years now. They will realign their perception of reality to account for what they're being told. The interview that I saw in 2016, or no, it was 2017, of someone looking at two paychecks of take-home pay, one larger than the other, but the larger one had to be the result of then President Donald Trump, or else that really annoying relative of yours that you just want to stick it to, you just want to own him, he'll win. You've got to make him squirm. You're supporting this racist, sexist, fascist, lying moron really gets under his skin. And it's the only way you can get under his skin. You can't beat him in argument. You know that his stances on social and political issues are correct and yours are evil. You know why you drive 3 towns over to go to a bar where you can say those particular words without getting thrown out. You know why you do that. Plenty of bars closer to you on a Friday night. You drive to that bar in order to be evil. So you can't get at that annoying relative any other way, that annoying in-law. So what you do is you look at those two checks and you say, this one is bigger when the number is smaller. And that what might have started off as a fun little joke 8 years ago has now become the credo of your life. You are no longer a Christian because you don't believe in turning the other cheek. You believe in full-throatedly attacking anyone who even looks at you funny. And threatening their kids and hanging out in their driveway and waiting at their door with a claw hammer. You don't believe in Christianity anymore. And that means that's not a political thing, which is why the Trump party candidate's running mate can say, yeah, we made it all up. It was a lie, and not have it affect anything at all. So the final point that I want to make here before we move on to books, is that I don't look at as much social media as I once did. My Twitter account was part of that security breach that they had. It was hacked by bots, run by bots for a couple of days until the bots lost interest, and then it was nuked. I can't get into it. So I have a backup Twitter account, but I barely look at it. But I do go on because I do want to know what people are saying. And there is now a very vocal, it's a minority, but a very vocal minority of non-fascists in this country saying that Tim Walz should decline to debate J.D. Vance in the upcoming vice presidential debate, much as he wants to do it, that he should decline to do it. Because these are poisonous, hateful, racist demagogues. Why give this person 70 million viewers? Why do it? So that he can get up there and lie. It's by his own admission, lie. I'm kind of thinking that the Trump cult will make hay over it, saying that he's running from the debate. But considering that their own candidate is running from a debate, got shellacked in a debate, and now has said he will do no more. Considering that that's the case, I think the Harris campaign could probably weather it. And you're nationally platforming this eyeliner wearing, goose stepping, fascist, lying goon. Why would you do that? Why would you soil yourself to do that? I don't think that it will happen. I'm pretty sure that Walz will debate him, but nevertheless, I am kind of in that camp now that says he shouldn't, because these are loathsome people, just loathsome people, just small, weak, petty, loathsome people. They're the bottom underseller, not of American politics, but of everything that we all strive every day not to be. it's not even political anymore. It's so personal. This shriveled, bigoted, old, stupid man standing at a podium in California and saying the debate was very unfair. It was very unfair. It was 4-1. I won it anyway. All the polls are saying that. You also know that's true. And also, his hair looked really bad. Just no polls say that you won. Nobody in the audience agrees with you. You're just you're implicating them in a mobster kind of way, as you know. Well, I don't know that at all. You're lying. And also, I'm just going to take a shot at his appearance just because I feel like it. Just because it's the very worst, smallest, most rancorous, most poisonously petty thing that anyone can possibly be in this moment. Anyway, okay, all right. Phew. Now, we are going to go. This is going to be a fairly controlled, fairly short Stevestream. Now I've got the political stuff out of my system. I did not make a barrage of videos today. I am being confronted with a couple of editorial walls that have suddenly come up on me. That's not going to be a problem. I never fail at these things. I know the day will come when I will, and I'm hoping that I will acknowledge it. I'm hoping that I will scale back before I fail. This is the graceful thing to do when you get older, is to scale back before you fail. Don't be one of those old guys. It's almost never an old gal, but don't be one of those old guys who still thinks they're 35. Just scale back. And I'm hoping that day will come. But right now, I am still a full-blown freak, and I feel certain that I can do the impossible between now and when those walls actually strike. And I wanted to indulge myself, because I haven't done a Stevestream in a long time, and I don't know how regular they're going to be for a bit, for the rest of September. And I know that my imaginary booktube friends love them. So we'll do a controlled Stevestream where we talk about books and reading, whatever else is on your mind. The one video that it's way up here. It's working its way down. There's another sneeze in there somewhere. The one video book-related video that I wanted to do today, I did a Conan video, of course, because Hannah would be so upset if I didn't talk about Conan and comic books in a given week. But the one other book video that I wanted to do was about Bring Up the Bodies. Since quite a few of you have emailed me and voxered me and said you'd be perfectly happy with just a quick impromptu read along of Bring Up the Bodies. Not a read aloud, but maybe something akin to a buddy read, where I've gone through the book before, but maybe more, maybe a video a day, something like that. And I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to do that. So I didn't get to even think about that today. But I'm hoping that tomorrow, or at the very latest Tuesday, I will have all the time in the world to think about it and to do it. So there you go. That's my throat clearing to start with. I have never seen anything like this in American politics. Never. I have never seen a candidate for president saying that if he gets to power, federal relief funds for disasters, for your grandmother caught in a wildfire, for your grandkids trapped by a school shooter, that federal relief funds will be dispersed on the basis of personal loyalty rather than need. I have never seen anyone in American politics say that. Some of them probably wanted it to be true. Some of them certainly hoped that it would be true, but no one ever came out and just talked like a mob boss. No one that I've known ever did that. Not a serious candidate who had a chance of winning. And no candidate running in a presidential election that I can remember in American politics, maybe one of you can remember something I'm forgetting, ever came out on the Sunday news shows and said I was lying about something I said a day ago. I've never seen anything like that. So anyway, now I had to get it off my chest. Now let's look at the chat. One View Cornwall is starting off with some cartoons. Dylan Matthias says hello. Sid says I've got my money on the bear. Oh, for the thumbnail. Manny says hello. Jenny Park says the bear is just misunderstood and wants a hug. Super Duper Nova says, hey, dude, what? Some names here I don't recognize. Maybe it's just that I haven't done a Stevestream in a while. Dylan Matthias, given they're both California, does any of your connection with dogs rub off on your interactions with bears? I'd imagine with all the trekking through the woods, it'd come in handy if so. The only reason that I am here now to read your questions is because when I was traveling in the back of Beyond, way up in California, way up in the Pacific Northwest, way up in Canada, way up in Russia, I had dogs with me. It's the only reason I'm here now. I encountered plenty of bears, and dogs were the only thing that stopped me. I never carry a weapon. I don't know how to fire a gun. So dogs are the only reason that I'm here. Gola Muad'Dib says, happy Sunday. Kevin Toll reads us here. Happy Sunday. Jenny Parks, it's already Monday for me. It's because you're a loser. Gola Muad'Dib says, happy Monday. Jenny Parks says, I don't like Mondays. Things I've always go wrong at work. Well, you might want to skip this whole work business. Sounds dreadful. Mona Doyle says, hello. Teresa says, someone hid in the bushes tonight with a firearm as Trump was playing golf. Yeah, just before I started the Stevestream, I saw little hints of that story. And I know this is going to make me sound like a tinfoil hat wearing Alex Jones style lunatic, but I don't believe it. I don't believe anything at all connected with this guy until it is verified by outside sources. So has the Secret Service apprehended somebody? Have they said that this happened? If it came from him or his campaign, I don't believe it. I don't believe it happened. But if the Secret Service has confirmed it, well, then that would be interesting. I'd love to know. I'm assuming that they killed the person 50 times over, so we'll never learn any details. Dylan Matthias says, that story really stood out to me. Governor Baker was not only a Republican, but Trump was also denying COVID was even real at that point. Just pure spite to Massachusetts and our people from POTUS. Yeah. He wants to run the government as a mafia don. If you're loyal to me, if I like you, if I think that you bend the knee to me, well, then you'll get some of what you want. I want a kickback, of course. And I'm glad that you don't forget. Aslan says hello. And Gibson is talking to somebody else. Gola Muad'Dib says, I finished reading Conan's City of the Dead today. Did you indeed? I hope you liked it more than I did. Manny, people like Trump is pretty astonishing because it's not like he's Stalin, who was a monster, but at least a competent one. He's such an unattractive person in every way. Yeah, well, they don't see him anymore. It's just worship. It's just religion. That's all. The thing, I don't fault these people. Once you're in a cult, I don't fault you. The only thing that bothers me, the only thing that I actually will stop them in conversation. I don't really care what you do on your Sundays, but don't call yourself a Christian. Don't say it out loud. You want to go to a church, the church that you grew up going to, fine. You want to mouth some platitudes that you remember, but they have by heart, fine. You're not a Christian anymore. Think Jesus is lame. You worship this guy, this balding, syphilitic Queen's rapist. That's who you worship. Annie Gibson says, what is going to be on the Booker shortlist? Simply map it onto the progressive stack, and you will do fine. Anti-Gaia says, Steve is afraid of being cooked up on the Barbie for a voodoo ritual. No, no, she's not. She is not, as far as I know, afraid of anything, except right now, her water bowl. Every once in a while, it'll be some little thing. But out in the world, no. We came across a Scottish deerhound today, big as a small pony. She didn't even think about being afraid. It's not the size of the dog. Not at all. Let's see here. Waiting at the station with a good book makes Nixon seem gracious and reserved. Yeah, that's been awful galling, is that I've had to admit that. I spent half a century saying could not be a worse president than this. I was dead wrong about that. Just dead wrong. Manny says, yes, I recently discovered that Amazon's original plan was to do a remake of the Lore trilogy. So your predictions about what they will do in the future might be correct. No, they are correct. That right now they will. There is money talks. When Christopher Tolkien was alive, money was irrelevant, but money talks, and Amazon will buy Lord of the Rings. So either they will or somebody else will buy the whole of it. And we will see exactly what I predicted on this channel 4 or 5 years ago, a black female Gandalf. They're showing you with Rings of Power, they're showing you what they intend to do to the actual books when they get the chance. Ryan says, Steve, good evening. What a joy to have discovered E.L. Doctorow. Didn't you find discussing him in the past videos? Are you a fan of his work? I'm not a fan of most of his work. No. I'm glad that I have heard that from so many people, what you're saying. What a joy to have discovered him. I've heard that from lots of readers over the decades. And I'm glad that it's true. I'm glad that it's true for you. But I read these books as they were coming out. I think that had a lot to do with it. I did not discover him as this near complete treasure trove. And it didn't have that effect on me. I'm not a fan. No. He does some things well. I like some parts of some of his novels. I'm afraid that's as far as I go. Auntie Gaia says, still haven't got my copy of Anne Applebaum's new book. Looking forward to it, though. Monet Doyle says the price of getting an oil change is going up. Manny says, I would love to see tiny cats try to scare away a bear. Dogs rule. Well, perhaps you're not terminally online. There are plenty of YouTube clips of domesticated house cats scaring away bears. plenty of that. But bears, those were black bears, and they were black bears who were just curious. Black bears are naturally skittish. I encountered plenty of grizzly bears who had never seen a human being before. in cases like that, you want a group of dogs, a coordinated group of dogs. Guilherme Diaz, Steve, what are your thoughts on Christopher Clark? Did you enjoy Revolutionary Spring? I didn't enjoy Revolutionary Spring all that much. I do like some of his stuff. Anti-Guy says the FBI confirmed the golf course story. Okay, a golf course story. So something did happen. Okay, well, then it's real. But now I want to know about it. Now I want to know what happened. Gina Stan, your books is here. Roomham says, nice 200-plus year run for the USA. Do you have a favorite founding father? Yes, that would be Samuel Adams. Andrew McDonald says, 2 books I'm looking forward to are Rob Sheffield's study of Taylor Swift in November and Dan Nadell's biography of Robert Crumb next year. Okay. View from the bar is here. Steve, what do you think is happening with Laura Loomer? Is it an affair? I don't doubt that it's an affair. It's not salacious to me either way. It looks like that. It looks like she seems like the kind of soulless husk that would do that. And I've seen so many commentators say, okay, regardless of what's happening, regardless of whether or not she's fondling you or before you fall asleep or whatnot, you got to distance yourself. She's pure poison for the campaign. And I always want to tell those commentators, he's not running for president. He's not conducting a presidential campaign. What does he care how polarizing she is? What does he care? His whole, if he returns to power, his whole junta is going to be composed of lunatics like her. Anti-Guy says, Steve, that's a bold move, skipping over Wolf Hall to bring up the bodies, although I have to admit I find the latter more exciting. Well, it has precedence on this channel. A couple of times on this channel, I have gone to a different volume than the beginning volume of something or other, and it tends to work out. I tend to enjoy it. And this story, well, it's the thinnest of the 3 books, I believe, but this is the story of the fall of Anne Boleyn. That's an incredible story. Dramatized on stage and screen. Jackson Zelda. Hi, Steve. Oh, no. Jackson Zelda. Where did you go? I am new here, and I discovered your channel by way of Michael K. Vaughn and Sumerian September. Thank you for all the great content. Well, aren't you nice? You're welcome to the channel. If you're new here to the Stevestream, you might want to check with your seatmates about what a have you read question is and try not to ask one. Tolstoy 111. Hi, Steve. Did you see that Penguin will be releasing a new Suetonius translation by Tom Holland? No, I didn't see that. Well, isn't that interesting? Richardson Reeves is here. Hello, all. Sorry I'm late. It's the real Donald Trump. What an awful way to talk about someone after an assassination attempt. We all need to rally around Trump. Okay, I don't know how to get rid of someone in a chat. I've never had to do that before. Do one of you know how to get rid of a troll, a bot? Is it the 3 dots? Is that Yes, it is. Okay, great. Jasper Antonelli, Donald Trump is a fan. Okay, Sid says, is the serial killer project still in the talks? No, it's not in talks anymore. It's the real thing. Money has exchanged hands. It's a go, as the kids say. Rum Ham says, I can barely think of a more repulsive person than Laura Loomer, maybe Steven Crowder. I'm amazed that Crowder's not on the flights with him, on the road with him. Except that I don't know. I don't have any idea. Jenny Parks, I feel grateful that my greatest drama this weekend has been trying to read Somewhere Beyond the Sea, one of my most anticipated new releases, but people keep wanting me to do things. How dare they? I know. I've only got one person who wants me to do things. And fortunately, my answer is always yes. Aslan says, have you ever helped someone who was afraid of dogs? Sure. Oh yeah, I have. Yeah. Many times. Both minor fears where I'm nervous around them. I don't really like to meet them, to major fears where I can't be anywhere near one of them or I lose control of myself. I've helped with in both cases. One time in particular, a gorgeous young man in my then neighborhood we had one dog we had lots of dogs in the neighborhood. There was one, a Chow Chow, whose owners refused to leash him. This was roads everywhere, people everywhere, students running for buses. This is not out in the country. And this Chow Chow just roamed all around. And people were terrified of him because he was really bad tempered. He would growl at people and stiff walk up to them. I told his owners over and they were really nice people. I told them over and over again, look, I know where you grew up, you didn't have dogs on leashes, but this is not where you grew up, and your dog is not friendly anyway. And they always came back to me with, well, he's friendly to you. I would say, yes, he's friendly to me. He's not friendly to anybody else. Literally nobody else. That's why I'm able to tell you. That's why I've got my hand on his head while I'm telling you this, because he's only friendly to me. Watch out your window. And this gorgeous young boy in the neighborhood, this guy, he was working at an architectural firm, and he was okay with dogs. He was terrified of that Chow, terrified. And it was, I knew this dog for years, and he would come running towards me when I got off the subway at the subway stop. He'd come running down the sidewalk. People would be jumping out of the way because he's headed straight for me. And when it was the right season, they shed their hair in great big tufts of hair. So I would sit him down on the sidewalk and I would envelop him with my arms. He put his head against me like that, and I would just clean his hair. And I was doing that once when this gorgeous young man came up, and he said, "Oh wow, he's not gonna run at me if I walk past you, is he?" I said, "Not only is he not gonna run at you, why don't you come over here and just rub his belly?" And he did. He overcame his fear and did it. The look of wonder on his face, I'll never forget it. He was rubbing his belly. I can't believe I'm touching this dog. And the Chow was growling, and I was telling him, knock it off. Knock it off. You're not doing anything. You let him pet you. Anyway, View from the Bar is back. By chance, after you suggested a life-changing political tome, What It Takes, I find myself halfway through another Arthur Schlesinger's journals. Do you like him? Not particularly, no. You can't be enjoying his journals. You can't be. Please tell me that you're at least half of the time laughing at him. Richards and Reed's Wild Cats can be quite impressive. Yeah, they don't take. There are plenty of videos on YouTube of cats facing down bears. William Doyle, Steve, what is Matt Taibbi's deal? Just Trump worship. That's all. He's rationalizing it. He's intellectualizing it more than most of the gap-toothed people in Trump's cult do. But he has been taken by the cult. That's all. Freeman, do you like the current run of Conan that Titan Comics is doing? I am enjoying them so far. I have fallen off with the run of Conan, their run of Conan the Barbarian. I read and famously brocheted the first issue of Savage Sword of Conan that they're doing. And then I fell off on that as well and just read Savage Sword of Conan number 4. Where Conan is on the cover in work khakis. But I haven't read the comic. No. I really should pick it up because the issues that I read, I kind of liked. Waiting at the Station, what do you think of the long-running Eric Flint 1632 series? It doesn't do anything for me at all. Nothing at all. It didn't right at the beginning, and now after 30 or 40 books, definitely not. Anti-Gaia, I had a friend who had a Bengal cat and it was apparently able to knock over toddlers. Ben Bell says, hey, Steve, do you like William McIlvaney? I've known lots of people by that name. What William McIlvaney are you talking about? Nothing, no obvious candidate is jumping to mind. Anti-Gaia says, wouldn't surprise me that Trump is knocking boots with Laura. She's just as much of a psycho, Joker, and Harley Quinn. Manny says, I finished The Count of Monte Cristo today and it was really fun, but I was really disappointed. And IDK, if it's the translation's fault, considering you've read the original, what do you think? Well, it would depend on what kind of disappointment you felt. I've always thought that whether you know the original language or not, after a little bit of time reading works in translation, you get a sense for whether or not it's the translator who's mucking things up. You get a sense of whether or not there's someone else in the phone booth with you. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Anyway, sorry. Jenny Parks, at least Joker and Harley are kind of entertaining. Brian Considine, good to see a stream. Just back from my long dog walk. Would it break the sacred rule if I asked if you have ever read Rings of Power novelization? What are you talking about? I have never read a Rings of Power novelization. I read a Tolkien ripoff, a Tolkien pastiche that was submitted to Kirkus Reviews. I ripped it a new one in my review and also wrote to my editors and said, we absolutely should not review this thing. This guy's going to be in court for the rest of his life. It's illegal for him to do this. We shouldn't be giving it the imprimatur of a Kirkus review. I don't know if they ever ran the review. I don't know if they ever took my advice, but my review was unsparing, to put it mildly. And the Tolkien estate did take him to court. J Studios caused the chat to jump. Hey, Steve. Jenny Parks, what novelization, Brian? Where can I find it? You can't find it. There are no novelizations of Tolkien. I don't know exactly what Brian's talking about, but there's The Lord of the Rings. Gola Muad'Dib says, what app did you get your Conan digital comics from? Couldn't tell you. J Studios, I'm very grateful for your ShakeTube series. I'm currently reading King Lear for school, and your video helps me understand the play much better. Yeah, I haven't done any ShakeTube content this year so far, and September is half over. That's preying on my mind. Not overwhelmingly, since I have this huge amount of work to do. I'm doing a Stevestream anyway. Aslan says, any advice on how to get out of a reading slump? Well, not advice that you're going to want to hear. Nobody ever wants to hear my advice on things like reading slump. The way to get out of a reading slump is with basically effort. In the 21st century, that's the one thing nobody wants to hear. You slide into a reading slump, but you claw your way out of one. The typical remedies that I have seen people suggest, that if you're in a reading slump, go to something that you really love, that you read a million times, and read it over again or whatnot, or take a break from reading. Those don't tend to work. Those tend to just make it so that you don't read anymore. So I mean, if I knew a little bit more about what you like to read, we could maybe find a book that's brand new and that you would like. That might help. Sometimes people want the joy of discovery. That I could understand. Estranged Joya, Steve, have you read Hopscotch by Cortazar? 33 minutes in. Estranged Joya, you may be new here. So I'm going to assume that you're new here, and we're going to move on. We're going to. I read between 120 and 150 pages an hour. I read an average of 10 hours a day, meaning sometimes it's twice that. I have been doing this for longer than your parents have been alive. Every day, day in and day out. And you're asking me, okay, all right, let's just move on. Brian Considine, Jenny, well, per the showrunners, They say it's Tolkien who wrote the novel. Who's Jenny Well? Or are you responding to Jenny? Tolkien did write the novel. He wrote Lord of the Rings, and the appendices are what the Rings of Power are drawing on. The appendices to the Silmarillion. Tolkien wrote the Lord of the Rings. Tolkien and his son and Guy Gavriel Kale wrote the Silmarillion. There are no novelizations of any of this. Colin says, reading Dark Suns by Richard Rhodes. Right now, I'm enjoying it immensely. Yeah, it's a great book. Jack Walter, have you had a chance to read the new Isherwood bio yet? Yes, and I reviewed it. And it's a little too soon after a have you read question for have you had a chance to read. I'm him says, what are your thoughts on Guy Gavriel Kay? I've recently discovered him and am loving what I read so far. I think he's great. Fantastic. Manny, what is your favorite story from the Silmarillion? Well, it has to be Beren and Luthien. It has to be. Because Beren is, he's complex and he's conflicted, and sometimes he's not as brave as he'd like to be, and yet he will find his inner valor when the need is there, and he will do what's right. And Luthien, well, she's just so gosh darn pretty. Okay, all right. She's pretty. What's her character like? Oh, she's just beautiful. I like the morning or the sunset. Okay, got it. But what is she like in an emergency? Oh, she's so pretty. She's just so pretty. She's just so pretty. View from the bar, loving the Schlesinger journals. Oh boy, the chat is jumpy tonight. We know who we were dealing with, though keep in mind it's still novel for me to just read someone's firsthand experience of these administrations. You're loving them? Oh, please. Okay. Well, I would love to talk to you about that if you didn't avoid me at every turn. Street Medic, what's the worst film adaptation of a classic novel, and what is the best? Well, I don't know who you're asking. I would assume that that everyone's idea of the worst would be the Demi Moore Scarlet Letter, where Hester Prynne lives and is happy. I'm assuming it would be that. What the best is, I don't know. There have been a lot of great ones. I would probably go with Moby Dick. View from the bar. Did you get a screener of the Trump biopic? No. I'm mostly interested to hear your take on the Roy Cohn portrayal. No, I didn't get a screener for it. I'm sure that my friend knows that would be a waste of time, and he probably didn't want to make me angry. So no, I didn't get such a thing. Greg X, are we still on for Proust in 2025? I have no idea what's going to happen in 2025. Jenny Park says Fall of Gondolin is my favorite, just for Glorfindel and the Balrog. Manny says, in general, I felt like Dumas was trying to lecture me in a lot of ways. Like, look, my main character is like a Byronic hero. Look, this guy is really smart because he's quoting famous authors. Yeah, I can see that. Brian Constantine, I was being sarcastic about Rings of Power, but speaking of Tolkien pastiche, I do have The Last Ring Bearer on my Kindle, but didn't get past the first chapter. Well, the thing that I'm talking about was an actual book. The first, what the author said was going to be a 7-book series. And I could not believe what I was reading. It's set in the Fourth Age. I could not believe what I was reading. All the way to the end of the first book, when the climactic action at the end of the first book is Gwaihir, the Wind Lord, dying. I was stunned. And I ripped it to, I don't know, I ought to check if the Kirkus website has a review of that book, but I don't remember the name of it. All I remember is that subsequent news stories confirmed the prediction that I made to my editors, which is that this guy's going to get sued into the Stone Age. Jenny Park says, I want advice on how I politely tell people to shoo as I want to read in peace. Oh my Deb could tell you stories about that very thing. Well, we all could, right? When we are seen to be reading, it is assumed by non-readers that we are doing nothing, that we are just waiting around for them to say something or do something. As far as I have ever learned, there is no effective way to tell people to shoo, I'm reading. The only way to do that is to make a space with a door and close the door, and read in peace. That's the only way I've known to do it. I have said this to so many people in my life, that I am not idle. Okay, I'm reading. I'm not idle. I'm not here for conversation. I'm not free to help you move a couch. I'm not idle just because you don't read. Damien says, I'm reading Woodward's books on Trump. Interesting, but I'm troubled by Woodward quoting unspoken thoughts. Are we to trust he knows what someone wanted to say but could not? He's not trustworthy in any way. Not in any way. Aslan says, have you ever done a dedicated video to Jules Verne on one of his works? I've searched, but I haven't found any. I'd be amazed if I hadn't done a video on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I love that book so much. Maybe I haven't. As many books, as many videos as I made, there are far more books, far more. Hazy Hill says, for reading slumps, I recommend novella and short story collections. Okay, that might work. He's wanting to know if I've ever read Meg. I mean, Hopscotch. I just shouldn't dwell. Strange Joya says, "Yay, yes, I am new." Okay, that's what I figured. That's what I figured. What you did was you asked what we call a "Have you read?" question, which is to pick some book that is incredibly, incredibly major, a book that has been studied in universities since the year after it came out, a book that's been translated into 30 languages, and ask me if I've ever read it. that's what a "Have you read?" question is. Jenny Park says, at least 33 minutes in, not your record. One stream had it around the fourth comment. Yes, but some of them have them well into the 40-minute mark. I'd rather that they not happen at all. A Strange Joya. Oh, thank you all. I didn't know he didn't like to have you read questions. Now I hate them. Waiting at the station, Robert B. Parker is my so-called reading slump breaker. Heck, I don't get into slumps. Right. A lot of people that I've talked to about reading slumps will also have that. They will have a coterie or one author alone who is their slump breaker. If that works, I don't ever have reading slumps, so I don't have any firsthand way of knowing. Oh, the chat jumped again. Here, let's go back to, there we go. Manny, I am reading this letter collection of Gustav Froding, and it's really fun. What are some of your favorite letter collections from well-known authors? I'm not in a position to talk about my favorite letter collections because all I'm doing right now, all I've been doing all summer long is bouncing between three. Not going to any others. Not going to any others at all. I'm bouncing between the letters of John le Carré, the letters of John McGarren, and the letters of Seamus Heaney. Just boom, 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 back and forth. I'm trapped in that recursive loop. Sid says, is Curtis Harnack worth reading? No idea who Curtis Harnack is. Jenny Parks, don't forget that Luthien can also sing beautifully. She sings as beautifully as she is. Her song is as beautiful as her countenance because she's, I don't know if I mentioned this, just so pretty. Dude, bro, seeping into Tolkien around the edges. Golam Muad'Dib, what did you think of the Fall of Numenor book? I'm currently reading it. I like those little books. I used to have all of them. Then I realized they're really for Tolkien completists. The story in the Silmarillion is fine by me, but I like them and I love the story. How I wish that were the story that Amazon or somebody else had spent $1 billion to dramatize. How amazing would that have been? I even know how I would do it. The first season would start with a cataclysm, and it would start with Sauron being brought to Numenor in chains. And it would just go from there. We've got a cast of characters. They're all named. We know them all. You couldn't have wizards. You couldn't have hobbits. You couldn't have Tom Bombadil. Couldn't have anything like that. But what a story that would be. William Doyle says, Steve, I was trying to find your thoughts on the 1619 project because the concept drives me crazy. Feel free to groan and move on if this topic should remain buried. Well, I think you can probably guess what I think about it, right? This is why I've never mentioned it on my channel. It was only one of two reasons why I've never mentioned something on my channel. So it's either a coin toss or you could take one look at the subject and know why I haven't mentioned it. Damien says, thoughts on Cyril E. Robinson. I just found a 20-cent copy of his History of Rome. Not familiar at all. You bring up all sorts of names that Steve's not familiar enough with to talk about. A Strange Joya, where did the whole bro-tube, dude bro culture stuff come from? Do you mean short-term or long-term? Long-term, it came from the cultural emasculation of men that started around 2012, 2011, 2012, and has gone on to epic proportions since then. Young men definitely feel that way, and it has given rise to an absolutely toxic counterculture, serving them up hot ladling cups of their missing masculinity. Only it's not. It's poison that they're getting. That's the long term. And the short term is Donald Trump coming down an escalator and saying that all Mexicans are rapists, which turbocharged the whole thing. So be one of those two things, or a mixture of the two. Marcia says, after reading Pride and Prejudice with you, what would be the recommended film adaptation to watch? The one that I like is the BBC one with Colin Firth, but I don't know. I sound hesitant because we had so much fun with that read aloud. I don't think any visual adaptation could approach that level of fun. I so miss it. I want to pick something else, something short enough so we can get it done by the end of November. Let's see here. Anti-Gaia says, wasn't Roy Cohn a lawyer for Joe McCarthy? Strange Joya says, what do you think of Anna Karenina's Levin concluding that work and faith are the man's purpose? Kevin J.N. says, Darren McCullough book, Steve. I ordered the physical book on Cromwell and now have the ebook on the Reformation. Do these stand alone or should I read in order? No, they mutually support each other. They work really well together. Don't miss his gigantic book on Christianity. Oh my God. As great as his Cromwell book is, as great as his Reformation book is, his gigantic book on Christianity, the first 3,000 years. What a book. What a mind-boggling book. What a book. Jenny Parks, I got called a you-know-what for being pissed at being interrupted. Maybe if it gets worse, they'll get the hint. So you have no choice but to read in public? You can't just read in private? Is that what it is? Maybe reading in a break room at work? That's what got my Deb going, is that people thought, oh, you're not doing anything because you're just sitting there reading. Manny says, there were also a lot of other more fundamental ways in which the Count of Monte Cristo felt contrived. What did you think of the book? I largely think what you do. People have noticed before in the years that I've been making videos that when the Count of Monte Cristo comes up, I sound, somebody put it years ago, that I am politely appreciative. And they said it in specific context of my reaction to books that I actually love. And they were accurate about that. Every once in a while, someone will make a comment like that where you people are just watching closely. And they said, I can tell that you have lots of reservations about this book because you don't condemn it, but you don't squeal over it either. And it's the squeals that we're all waiting for. This person said years ago, they said, it's the squeals we're all waiting for. When I hear a Steve squeal, I go right to Amazon. And it's true. I largely think a lot of the reservations that you do. It's grotesquely overlong. Aslan says, oh no, Aslan says what? The chat jumped. I'm trying to get into nonfiction, and I'm amazed at the number of books on the making of. Yeah. There's a lot of dumb nonfiction out there. There's a lot of dumb fiction out there. There's a lot of dumb nonfiction too. Boy, oh boy, do I know that after the last few days. Anti-Gaia says, I am able to get most of the reading done at night. If there's a genuine emergency, people usually call instead of text. NK Mandal says, hey, Steve, I'm late today. Well, that's all right, because we're wrapping up soon. Is Pedro Paramo an exception to this? I do remember you saying you've never read it entirely. We're having a bit of a trend in the chat, aren't we, for books? Anti-Gaia, I love Pat Highsmith's letters. I have the first volume that came out 2+ years ago. Plus all the letters that Highsmith wrote to you, right? Including, I assume, the first one in which she gave you permission to call her Pat. Assuming that's the very first one, you must have those in a bundle somewhere. Treasured possessions. Street Medic says, Tom Bombadil is the most intriguing Tolkien character, in my opinion. Jenny Park says, I love some of the theories about Tom Bombadil. And Richardson Reed says, Bombadil is fascinating. And Bombadil has made his appearance in Rings of Power. Max says, do you think economics is pseudoscience? No. Waiting at the Station says, I am reading Lord Allenbrook's journals during the Second World War. Do you have a British general you find fascinating? Well, Allenbrook's pretty fascinating. Wish I had. I once had a box set of those, the mass market paperback box set of those, and I don't have it anymore. I have no idea what happened to it either. Waco says, hi, Steve. I picked up Dinosaur Behavior and the Deep Ocean Princeton hardcovers you spoke well of, and I'm really enjoying them. Thanks. Oh, my pleasure. I love recommending books, especially love it when a recommendation lands. Gola Muad'Dib says Talam Bombadil is Tolkien. Wait, is that Gola Muad'Dib? That should be Tolstoy 111 saying something patently false to get Steve's coat. But it's Gola Muad'Dib instead. How weird. Manny says, have you caught up on the Rings of Power yet? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Richardson Reed says, Tolkien is Bombadil. Interesting. Yes, interesting, but completely false. Anti-Guy says, Steve, another milestone in Dude Bro culture is the movie Fight Club. Yeah, it didn't happen right away with Fight Club. Dude Bros found Fight Club. They also found what's his name in American Psycho. They went back and found those things. They didn't have that reaction to it in context when they actually happened. Jenny Parks, I'm enjoying the reaction videos to Rings of Power. Way more entertaining than anything Amazon could make. I haven't watched many. Tolstoy 111 says Fight Club was a satire. That's the old spirit. Sid says Curtis Harnack grew up in Iowa and was also in the Iowa Writers Workshop. I just assume you knew everyone who fell in that category. Anti-Guy says at least my least favorite chapter in Lord of the Rings is the Old Forest. It feels like it just drones on and on. Marcia says, I agree. I really miss the Pride and Prejudice nightly chapter. I'm sure no film will take its place, but I thought I would ask. We need to pick another book. I need to find something. I missed it. I miss it too much. MTG GRL. I don't watch VP Hopeful Vance, but people are watching the meeting of the small town in Ohio regarding their immigrant problems. So it doesn't matter what DT says. People are watching hearings on. Okay, I didn't follow any of that. There's no punctuation and there's no structure. Sorry, I don't know. I have any idea what that comment means. Kanan says, did you ever read the saga of Eric Bright Eyes? Well, all right. I said that this wasn't going to be a long Steve stream, and it's not. So we will start triangulating towards a close here. We'll start triangulating towards a close here. Envoy X says, how about a read-along of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Well, it's too long for the rest of the year. It's too long to be done by late November. Andrew McDonald says, and also I'd have to find a translation that's old enough. The work is old enough, but it'd be a translation. I would either have to find a translation that is in the common domain, or I'd have to translate it myself. I actually thought about translating just 2 or 3 books of Livy, not even worry about the Penguin translation or any 19th century translation, just do it on my own and read that. Andrew McDonald says, someone on Twitter recently said, nerd culture has always been left wing. I directed them to your Marvel rant videos. Did you indeed? Jenny Park says, nope, Steve, I got yelled at by my family when I was just reading in the garden. Greg says, thanks so much for the back-to-back Brattle videos this past week. What an epic meta haul. Yeah, it was a huge week. I had a guest every day. Marcia says, I am reading The Lady in Gold, The Extraordinary Tale of Gustav Klimt's masterpiece portrait of... Okay. Street Medic, which series is better, Cornwall's Sharp or Forrester's Hornblower? Oh, yeah, the chat jumped again. Oh my God. But it doesn't matter because we're going to be wrapping things up here. I physically cannot take a third have you read question. We've now had 2. Max says, how do you assess whether you think a social science is pseudoscience, whether or not it has any statistical backing to it at all? Are you just supposed to believe it? Or is there something where it has enough statistical backing to make a prediction? Jenny Park says, do you think Tom really is a physical form of Eru? No, I don't. Tolstoy 111, do you like the BookTube channel better than food? He's lots of fun. Boy, oh boy, this is a curse, Steve stream. So sometimes they just are. It's not a question. I think there are 22 people here from what I'm reading. It's not a question of attendance. It's some Steve streams are just cursed. I think if you dressed better than food in a clown outfit, and arranged your screen so that he could actually physically hand you $20 bills straight through the screen into your hand, I think if you did all of that, it still wouldn't make his channel fun. Let's just say he and I have completely different philosophies about books and reading. Completely different. And about book 2. Aslan says, we know you are not a great fan of philosophy, but do you make a difference between analytical and continental philosophy? Do you dislike one more? No, it's all junk. Manny says, the Shahnameh finally arrived today in the post. I need to wash away some of that Herodotus propaganda I got from reading the histories. It's fun propaganda, though. Colombian Thunder says, well, I guess that last have you read question does it. I'm afraid it does. But we'll go a little bit longer and then we'll wrap this up. I cannot take a third have you read question. I can't do it. Gola Muad'Dib, what if Tom Bombadil was really Tom Bombadil? Amazing. Imagine that. He's his own master. Damien says, did you always find Bob Woodward untrustworthy, or was it him holding on to what Trump told him about COVID? It was that. He was my hero for Watergate. And then it isn't just COVID. He's still holding on to stuff about Trump to dole it out in books. A soulless, evil, horrible traitor. So no, I didn't always find him untrustworthy. Now he is. I don't just find him that way. He is that way. He is untrustworthy. Anti-Gaia says, let's just get real. Trump got absolutely creamed in that debate. Not that it's making much of a difference in the polls yet. The polls look like they are trending. It takes a while for these sorts of things to penetrate the groundwater, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We've already, I don't know how online you are. You might have seen footage of masked, flag-waving, armed foot soldiers tramping through residential neighborhoods. That Trump isn't trying to win an election. I know I sound like a broken record just saying that over and over again, but he's not helping anything in the last few days. Anyone who's paying any attention to him who's in any way not in his cult, hearing a presidential candidate say that California will get wildfire relief money if its governor is nice to Trump, and otherwise no. California has more electoral college votes than anybody else, and he's telling Californians, "You'll die. I will happily watch you all die." Richard Reed saying, "Did you ever read?" William Dole, Steve, any thoughts on Jane Jacobs? I feel like her death and life was so transformative. By the time I read it, the observations were so dominant. The impact of the book was softened. Yeah, it is one of those things that where you read, you read her book on urban philosophy, and you think, oh well, isn't this completely known? It's the oxygen that we breathe in the whole of the world of the movement and the science. But she made it that way. I like her. I like her writing. There was a collection of her miscellaneous writings that came about 6 or 7 years ago that was really good. Wish I still had that. Sid, there's a book called Pride and Prejudice in Space coming out next month. I've been waiting for a copy to pop up in one of your mail halls. I doubt that I would get such a thing. Maximus Setish says, what if you read aloud book reviews? Wolfe, Burgess, Waugh, Hardwick. Well, 3 of those 4 are under copyright. So I can't read anything that's under copyright. Manny says, and yes, by the way, it would be super fun if you did bring up the Bodies read along. I've been wanting to read it for a while, and it would be a perfect motivator. Well, I did already. I should point out, if you search on my channel, you will see that I did a month-long buddy read along of this book. But what I'm thinking would be much more detailed, and would be it would be part by part, 6 parts for the parts of the book, and with a lot more detail to it. So it'd be half-hour video each, which I don't think I did last time. Jenny Park says the most ridiculous theory was that Tom and Goldberry were transformed Melkor and Shelob serving as punishment. Colin says his Poldark series worth reading. Nope, afraid not. Too close to have you read. Gola Muad'Dib says no people, Steve, never read Moby Dick, Jaws, or Dune. That reading guy says I was sitting in the park reading Plato. Does that make me a dude, bro? Oh yes, it does. Manny says there are 124 people here. 126 people? No. I'm seeing 23. I don't think I pull in those kind of numbers. I really don't. That reading guy says, now that I'm here, the stream will improve. Well, no, we're leaving. We're wrapping this up. I can't take a third have you read question. Richard Reeds is saying even Frida is yawning. Well, Frida doesn't yawn when she's bored. She's tired. We've had a lot of outside activity today. Why wouldn't you have outside activity if it's high summer? If it's 85 degrees with 85% humidity and pure sunlight, why wouldn't you in the middle of September? Andy Guy says better than food just comes off as a smug jerk. I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. If somebody, the commentator said they really liked his channel, called him fun. I think you dress him in spangles and shoot him out of a cannon and he wouldn't be fun. But it takes all types. All I can say for sure, 100%, maybe it's possible that in his life, off camera, he has smiled or laughed. I have a strong suspicion that if he did, it was at somebody else. But maybe he did. Maybe it's true. All I know for sure is what I see on camera, and so I can say for sure we embody two completely different philosophies of reading books and booktube. Completely different. No elements in common. Jenny Park says, have you read? No, well, we're leaving anyway. We're leaving anyway. I just got gut punched. Let's see here. Tolstoy 111 says, your take on Better Than Food is fascinating. Is your primary objection that he monetizes his channel too aggressively? I just like that he does not pander with nonstop YA stuff. Oh, come now. Tolstoy 111, I know you and I argue in every single live stream, but the days when BookTube was all pandering to, when that was a distinguishing factor, was somebody who doesn't pander nonstop to YA, that you're making a 10-year-old complaint. BookTube hasn't been like that in a long, long time. Maybe not 10 years, but certainly 5 or 6 years. That's a long time. BookTube is not just an unbroken landscape of people pandering to YA. It was once upon a time. It isn't anymore, and it hasn't been in a long, long time. You have to do, a channel has to do more than that to be something that you find distinctive or that you like it for. And I'm not talking about his monetization. I'm talking about his attitude to books and reading and his viewers. It is very, very top down. It's just completely different from my own philosophy. Completely. Waiting at the station, Steve, Jasmine, Rice, or Brown. No idea what you're talking about. That reading guy, you've talked a lot about liking Emma Donohue's recent novels, but you haven't mentioned her best-selling book, Room. Is it worth a read? Well, there are a lot of books I haven't mentioned. Right? I make lots of videos every day, and I have been for a long time, but there are a lot of books I haven't mentioned. But I did like Room. Yeah. Julie Martin says some of the books I'd enjoy hearing you read, but all are under copyright. Anyone have ideas? Colombian Thunder says, as someone that lives pretty close to these Southern California fires, after hearing that Trump threat, I'm in complete disbelief. So many people here are Trump supporters and don't care that he said it. Yeah, they don't care. He said that they will burn. And they don't care. And the reason they don't care is because they're not listening to a political candidate. It's a religion. So they're not reachable. They're not persuadable. It's a religion. Just be careful they don't kill you. No matter how well you know them, be careful they don't kill you. Manny says, yes, Herodotus' lies don't at all feel harmful or offensive, but almost cute and funny, stemming out of curiosity and a love of storytelling and entertaining. Yes, indeed, I agree. MTN, dogs and animals in general are only focused on attitude, not size, so Frida can lord it over any size animal. Well, it's true. I've tried to explain this before to humans, and they don't usually get it, and they certainly can't see it or predict it in a talk encounter. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and none of it has anything to do with size. None of it does. It's threat, it's danger, it's assurance. Frida is in the fullness of her health. She is a mature, unneutered female with a high body count. She has killed 100 living animals. And you might think, well, if she doesn't have blood on her, how's any other animal going to know that? I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to how do you describe a sunrise to a blind person? It's attitude. It's, what was the word you used? Attitude. Yeah. Plus the fact that the dogs that are bending the knee to her and deferring to her are actually deferring to me. It doesn't matter. That just feeds the attitude. Unless the dog's demented, unless the dog is just reflexively savage to all living things. And if you have a dog like that in my neighborhood, you had better be taking care that dog never comes near any other dog, or I'm going to be really, really angry, and that's not good. that's not good. Jenny Park says, I'm wondering if you're only seeing the number of people commenting and not the number of people watching. Could be. I'm certainly not seeing 120, 125, and something like that. Let's see here. Colombian Thunder, the only time Better Than Food has ever smiled was when he said he was fine with fat shaming, and when Jordan Peterson said he likes Tom Waits. Well, I don't have every chapter and verse of his channel down pat, but I know that he doesn't. His channel is not a happy place. Reading is not a happy endeavor for him. It's a church, and he's a priest, and he wants tithes from you. Long before he cares about your soul, he cares about your tithes. And you're never going to tell him anything. He's going to tell you things. It's completely different from here. Completely different. That's the one thing I'm sure of, is that our philosophy is completely different about books and reading and booktube. Richard Reed says, Steve, are you wearing pants? No. Jenny says, does Steve own pants? I do. Yeah. Sometimes I have to go outside. Manny says, I've been really enjoying Mike's book reviews. He seems like a genuinely open-minded guy. Okay. That reading guy, was the offense worse than Herodotus this time? There were two. That's the thing that's getting me, is it was two of them. William Doyle on Jane Jacobs again. Her Dark Age Ahead almost seems like a Christopher Lash culture of narcissism thing. Maybe it's not that at all. I haven't dug into it. Andy Guy says Trump should be criminally liable just for not taking things seriously when it came to COVID. Well, yeah, but for most of the American public, COVID is ancient history. He should be criminally liable. You would be criminally liable if you got on in front of a national camera and repeated something that you knew was a lie that was causing stochastic terrorism. You'd get a visit from the FBI and Homeland Security if you did that, instead of getting the Oval Office out of it. Tolstoy 111, Aslan. Oh, no, you're talking to somebody else. SM3. Hi, Steve. Do you read manga? And if so, what series would you recommend? I don't really read manga. No, I've only read 2 series. I read an old one named Crying Freeman, and I read a relatively new one, massively popular, called Death Note, and all the rest of them, no. Some Okie dude says, I just wrapped a podcast where I talked about your boy Cormac McCarthy. I'm never on podcasts anymore. Wonder why. Francisco says, hi, Steve. Question, would you recommend a translation of your favorite book, Metamorphoses of Ovid? I would like a more classic translation rather than modern, if possible. I would recommend Horace Gregory. No idea what you mean by classic over modern, but I would recommend Horace Gregory as a translation. Sue's Book Nook, am I late to the party? You are, and we're leaving. we're wrapping this up. Tolstoy 111, Steve, just so you know, Better Than Food does personalized feedback in case you wanted to send him some writing. This post is in jest. I can just imagine. The Street Medic, I was a strike team paramedic that was assigned to a wildfire. And anyone who would let anyone go through that hell is pure evil. Yeah. Trump announced it. Got no pushback at all. No follow-up questions since. No one's bothered. He can say whatever he wants, whatever Hitlerian nonsense he wants. No one's going to care. No one's going to press him on it. Hey, did you really mean that? That you're going to withhold disaster relief funds unless the governor likes you? You want to tell the country that. Some Okie dude says, we also talked about Larry McMurtry, though, so I think it balances out. Roomham says, hope your work goes well tonight, Steve. Bye all. Sue's Book Nook says, I enjoyed watching you and your guests at the Brattle in your recent videos. Now, those were epic. It was epic to have so many visitors come in from out of town all at the same time. That was amazing. I don't look to that happening again anytime soon. Some Okie Dude says, I've wanted to read some of the classic epics like the Metamorphoses and the Aeneid. Where should I start? Well, you can start with any of them. Read a good introduction and whatever paperback translation you get from Penguin or Oxford. Maybe study up on the Wikipedia entry so that you really know what you're getting into, and then just launch off. The Metamorphoses or the Aeneid, they're both wonderful things to read. Find a translation that you like and jump right into it. Francisco says, I meant a translation that is closer to the beauty of the original language rather than a more accessible for the modern reader. I would go with Horace Gregory to start with. And then you can play around with other translations if for some reason you don't like that. Manny says, I remember screaming silently, stop ruining the fun. This guy totally used seals as a boat after checking the notes while reading the histories. Oh, right. Some Okie Dude said, what's a good translation in your opinion? I would recommend the Horace Gregory translation for Ovid's Metamorphoses. For the Aeneid, you have a lot more range. Alan Mandelbaum's is really, really good. You could try that. That reading guy says, I've been reading a thriller for a week for the first time in forever. I've noticed how bleak the world thrillers portray is. Yeah. Oh, very much so. Yeah. Could the levels of government corruption be anywhere close to accurate? I hope not. Well, it's not just government corruption. They're a tawdry reading experience. Definitely. They're a tawdry reading experience where the world is mechanistic, soulless, lightless. That is the backdrop of so many thrillers. Actually, it's also the backdrop of a lot of TV. House MD is a dark, horrible world. It takes place in a dark, horrible world. That reading guy says, what are you reading tonight? Oh, I'd love to read tonight, but I think instead I have to work. I have to read. I have to write for a huge chunk of the night in order to get that done. So that when the sun comes up on tomorrow's 90-degree day, there'll be a huge weight off me. That would be great to do that. So I will do some reading. Do I have anything near me? I'll be reading that Hiroshima book. I don't have it near me. I'll be doing some reading, but not a lot. It'll be mostly writing and editing. Some Okie Dude says for the Aeneid and the Metamorphosis. Okay. MTB says, hey, Steve, do you think the best American short stories of the century edited by Updike is a good collection? Yeah. Some Okie Dude said, never mind, I'll look them up. Some Okie Dude said, probably not. Doesn't he hate Updike? Tolstoy 111, Benjamin McAvoy just put up a how to read video on the Inferno. We can all finally read Dante now. Actually, Longfellow's Inferno is in the common domain. Manny says, what do you think about the Rings of Power episode 5, by the way? It was awful. Just awful. It was absolutely terrible in every conceivable way. The lighting, the pacing, the directing, the blocking, the staging, the acting, the framing, all of it. It was absolutely horrible in every conceivable way. It was absolutely groaningly awful, just as TV fantasy, without even mixing in the absolutely willful desecration that it's doing to Tolkien. Anti-Guy says, breaking news, the suspect is a MAGA guy. Well, yeah, that goes without saying. But why would be my reason. Is the suspect alive? That would be amazing if it was, because the Secret Service is all MAGA. And they know what's gonna happen. So I'm pretty sure that they're under verbal, unwritten orders to kill these people, even if they've got a clear way to apprehend. Just kill them because they don't want them talking. William Doyle says, Steve, I'm taking it upon myself to learn Latin. Wish me luck. Aslan says, what's your thoughts on Joe Abercrombie's work? I love his writing style, but find the feeling of nihilism that permeates his novels grating. Yeah. He's an energetic enough writer in a slangy kind of way, in a Joss Whedon kind of way. But who wants that? Why would you want to turn from a world in which something like Israel's massacre of Gaza is happening and turn from that to fiction that's even worse? Why would you want to do that? Jenny Park says, you mean you don't like Galadriel fighting alongside orcs? Manny says, I feel like they had a very general and vague plan for the series, but it only covered like 2 episodes. So they're stalling with a bunch of contrived and stupid writing for 6 episodes. Well, they just threw a whole bunch of stuff together. They know what they want. They knew what they wanted to do at the beginning of all the pitch meetings, which is the progressive stack. It's to fix Tolkien. They didn't have any real thoughts, any beyond that. So how hard can this writing stuff be? We'll figure it out as we go along. It's not like we need to be plotting and dreaming and making up this stuff and refining it from all the way from the trenches of World War I to the 1940s and 50s. No, we can just slap it together, and I'm sure it'll work. Street Medic says, of course he's MAGA. How did he know Trump was going to be on the golf course and when? That reading guy says, I'm considering reading an L.P. Hartley novel or a Hermann Hesse novel soon. Hate to say it, especially if Mark Richardson is still in the chat, but Hartley is better. And not known. Manny says, also, I can't think about any real big impact that anything in season 1 had. It's kind of funny. Well, the most long-standing impact from season 1 is that Sauron is an angry incel. And the reason he became a Dark Lord is because Galadriel turned him down for the prom. He asked her to go to the prom, and she said no, because she don't need no man. And that turned him into the Dark Lord that we know, the Dark Lord of Mordor. And that is going to have long-standing repercussions through whatever this thing is. Amazon is not a private company. And this thing is losing money by the bale load. It's losing money in gigantic shipping containers. So Jeff Bezos or no Jeff Bezos, I would like to think that somewhere at some point someone is saying, let's cancel this. let's just cancel this. Fans universally hate it. We're making millionaires out of commentary channels on YouTube who are their only source of income is to tear this thing apart. Sid says, is Rings of Power the worst TV show you've ever watched? By a wide margin. But no other, not even close. By a wide margin. Street Medic says, he was well inside the security zone. How did he get there? Oh, it sounds like you're all learning details about this that I need to know. That reading guy says, have we had a blob watch yet? Well, there won't be much of a blob watch. There's not much. There's all sorts of stuff going on in the American South. But here in the Northeast, nothing at all. We're not going to have any weather for... Yeah, see, there's nothing at all happening in the Northeast. We've got all this stuff down here. But that's not going to come up. And there's nothing else. Nothing at all. The weather forecasts are saying rain next week, but that's not going to happen. There'll be a frontal change, but there won't be any rain. It hasn't rained here in a long, long, long time, and it's not going to rain for a long time. Let's see here. Jackson Zelda, Steve, I really appreciate your video on the Legion of Superheroes. That is my favorite comic group. And I agree with you completely on wanting to read them, how they were presented and not how they are now. Well, we have no idea how they are now. It's become a bit of a fad with DC Comics that when you reintroduce the Legion, you reboot the Legion every single time that you reboot it. So we have no idea what they'll be like now. But yeah, it'll be, we know what it will be like. We don't know the details. Maximus Stedish says, I put Eustace and Hilda down at my library sale for a second and someone else snatched it up. You never see. I'd love a copy of Eustace and Hilda. I saw a copy at the Brattle years ago. Haven't seen one since. Never see Hartley at all. Manny says Numenor invaded Middle-earth and it had basically no impact because the only reason Pharazôn became king was due to the eagle happening to land close to him. Anti-Gaia says, Steve, what do you think of Harry Bosch novels? I like them. Julie Martin says, Rings of Power started off lousy and it's only gotten worse. Aslan says, do you recommend any Doctor Who books? I love the show, but not sure if I should get into the books. The books are fairly thin stuff. You have to be a real fan to like them. They're fairly thin. No offense to William Gallagher or anybody else. William Doyle says, Steve, what should I read next after Brideshead Revisited? What goes with claret and plover's eggs? It depends on, well, keep in mind that's just the first part of Brideshead, right? It becomes a darker book. You might want to try more Wa, or we could talk about other things. Sid, no point in Blob Watch. The only storms in Massachusetts have occurred in this chat tonight. Right? There's no weather for the my weather. I wonder if I could show it to you. My weather app is predicting 3 days of rain next week. Let me see if I can call that up. Yeah. Oh no, now it's gone to 2 days. See, it's got 2 days of rain there, and that is not going to happen. That rain is not going to happen. There's not a drop of rain is going to fall in Boston, and we're in a severe drought already. It hasn't rained in many years here, so no, this is the only place where storms will happen. That reading guy says, any more guests in the upcoming months? I can't imagine having another guest. But if I do, I'm sure it'll just be for one night. Peyton's book review says, what did you think of Marianne Williamson's run for president? I'm a fan of her books. Have you read her latest? I have not read her latest, and I'm not a fan of pointless runs for president. I never know what to make of them, so I'm not a fan of them at all. Cenk Uygur running for president when the Constitution of the United States of the country that he's trying to run for president of says he can't be president. Things like that. I never really understand them. Manny says, wait, there is a sequel to Brideshead. What's it called? Do you mean some sort of spiritual sequel? Jenny Park says, you're welcome to our rain, Steve. It would be great. We're in a drought here. It hasn't rained in a very, very long time, and it's not going to. It's very clear that it's not going to. That reading guy says, Gulliver's Travels is also pulling at me. And Miranda says, Steve, I'm reading Airport on your recommendation and loving it. By the same guy that wrote Hotel, can't remember the name, Arthur Haley. Yeah, and you'll like Hotel as well. And he wrote others too. He wrote others. A lot of his stuff. He wrote a book about a hospital. He wrote a book about a newspaper. They're all really good. They're all, if you like the one, you'll like them all. Jenny Park says, as a Brit, I'm confused. Can anyone run a presidency, or are there actual rules? Well, there are all sorts of qualifications, but if you can manage them, and usually a best-selling author can manage them, then you can get your name on ballots. People can vote for you. If you raise enough signatures, get enough donations, you start to build momentum as your campaign. But and Street Medic says, Airport started the disaster flicks, and that is good enough. We are going to wrap this up now. This was wonderful. This is just the shot in the arm I needed, but I actually have to get to work and work for the next 12 hours. That ought to do it. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. Sorry to do things so abruptly. But I will be back. We will do this again. Don't know exactly when. I will keep my eye out for another opportunity soon. But I don't think it'll be tomorrow night. We'll see. Maybe just an hour tomorrow night. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much. I'll see you soon.